We'd love to hear a little bit more about what you're doing at the moment. Obviously, you've got Rise and Shine in the documentary you released there as well, with, you know, that tells your story in an amazing way. And I think, you know, what's probably cool, correct me if I am wrong, but what I'm kind of picking up is, you know, what's cool about telling your story is the way you tell it each time is always a bit different. It's never like exactly word for word the same story. Depending on how the conversation goes, you tell it in maybe a different order, or you kind of tell different parts, little side stories that you weren't sure if you were going to mention, just based on how a conversation goes. So even though the storyline of the story is always going to be the same, the way you tell it kind of varies a lot, because it is such an amazing story with so much in it that, you know, kind of covering it front to back is always going to look a bit different.
No, and I appreciate that and totally agree. And that's, you know, for me, what Rise and Shine is, you know, Rise and Shine at the core of it all is a life story about someone that believed in themselves, respected the people around them, had some adversity, stayed positive through it, and in the end achieved success. And it's a carbon copy for anybody in their life that wants to rise and shine. It is. My vehicle was soccer, and now I'm turning it into other things. And so the whole idea of Rise and Shine is it's a mentality first thing, you know, but it's not taught by one person. It's taught by a community of people that have had high performance. And, you know, again, what I talked about earlier in the podcast was about, you know, when Rise and Shine came, I was coming back to Vancouver, my first year in the MLS, and these two non-filmmakers, we hired someone on Craigslist to go to the World Cup and get B-roll footage of the World Cup so they could tell my story properly, as the big peak was me playing in a World Cup after walking to England, you know what I mean? And when all of a sudden that comes into a Kickstarter campaign, and all of a sudden you got marketing campaigns to tell people about your story, and you're going to churches and doing 400-person school visits and screenings, and you realize that the story is much bigger than you. And when all of a sudden $223,000 is donated to make the story into a documentary film on Kickstarter with thousands of people that I've never met, it made my story more important to me too. And because when you can resonate and you can be a sense of inspiration, or a sense of hope, or just a sense of knowledge and experience, you know, and thankfully I had all of those things within my story, you know, and so now we use Rise and Shine, and I say we because it's not me anymore. You know, Rise and Shine is now a charity. We run fundraisers all year round because I run a youth program in the summers for teenagers that is also called Rise and Shine. And it's a camp out youth program where we teach leadership through skill set. So I run the soccer camps, but we also have DJ programs. We have, we're working on a creative camp. And so the whole idea is that the pros in that field coach, but then every day the kids meet somebody else that's a pro in something else. And so the kids will come to my soccer camp. I'll bring up, like, you know, a Premier League soccer player up to the property, and we'll coach soccer two times a day for the 4-day program. And the kids will get to learn what it's like to be a pro and be approached by pros. Awesome. Teenagers, they want to listen to pros, the blue check mark guys. And but the thing is that I'm not trying to tell them that they're going to be a soccer player, because 99.9 times out of it, they're not going to be. So I don't want to be the coach and the mentor now that says you can't be the artist that you're about to be, or you can't make videos for that cool Instagram company because you're going to be a soccer player, because you might not be, in all honesty. And I think we need to stop telling the kids that. And of course I can tell this is how you be a soccer player, so good luck. And if you do it, great, I'm here to help. But I'm not going to tell them that this is what they have to be. And if they don't make it to Jay Demerit or Lionel Messi or Wayne Rooney, then they're failed. Like, we are killing these kids and their mentalities and their mental health because of this reason. And so for me, it was always about surrounding them with other badasses in other worlds. So I get CEOs from, you know, BMO to come up and talk about starting companies. I get like a chef from a famous restaurant in Vancouver to come up and teach them about how to make spaghetti with meatballs, and really simply and with good nutrition, because it's fun. And we get to cook with a chef from a restaurant that they all go to. Or I flew up 2 NHL hockey players in my buddy's helicopter, and he landed on the yard, and I had 2 NHL active players talk to a bunch of teenage soccer players about what it's like to be high performance athletes, even though a soccer player had never talked to a hockey player in their life before at a high performance level. And then the helicopter pilot comes and gives a lesson on flying, and then gives a bunch of soccer players a ride in a helicopter. So by the end of that week, they've met a chef, a helicopter pilot, a designer, and four athletes that all play for pro teams. In now, you think about development, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about them signing a contract. We forget that that's all we think about. We talk about development. Think about how much those kids develop in 4 days. You know what I mean? The conversations we have, the bonfires to talk about who they met, what they like about the pilot's lesson, what they loved about cooking, and did you know you can use eggs in a meatball to make it better? You know, like that's life skill. That's life mentality. That's high performance at its finest. But you're not teaching it through the programs. And so my goal after stopping playing, because I was the captain of those programs that were doing it one dimensionally, I just wanted to do it on my own and make sure that my creative background was being really promoted in the right way. And I didn't want to be the pro that told kids they had to be me. I don't, because they're not going to be me. I know that for a fact. They're number one, not me. That's the truth. They're them. And we need to start educating in their development on that theory, not what I did to make it to a World Cup.
And managing expectations is all part of it, right? I think that's really important. There's a comedian. You guys may not have heard of him because he's English. Ramesh Ranganathan. Don't know. If not, I'll send you through because he's hilarious. He does this really funny sketch about saying like how he gets pissed off when Justin Bieber accepts an award and go, "This is proof that any of you can chase your dreams. Always chase your dreams because your dreams." He's like, that is utter dog. He goes, if my kid went to see a career advisor at his school and he said, you know what, you're going to be the -- selling pop star, stop doing everything, he goes, I would burn that school to the ground. And he's like, what I want to see, he goes, I want to see Dave come on stage, and I want Dave to say, well, when I was younger, my teachers told me I wasn't going to make it, and I didn't. I'm just here to say I didn't make it. They were right. He says he wants to see that. He's a very good comedian, but that's the idea, right?
Well, and that's the honesty, and I think we can't be, if I'm again, I had the honesty within my humble approach to say, keep going because you're getting better. You made the next team. You just had a trial against an Oxford team that you didn't make it, but at least you're trying to get in a third division tryout. You're playing against the best player in the world and you're doing okay. Keep going. Those are good, humble, honest assessments of the indicators that should allow you to keep moving forward. The key is that as that 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old starts to go, now I was the star player and now I'm sitting on the bench and now I want to keep trying. From there, you have to manage the expectations. And that's a two-way street too, from the coach or the player. Because the player either doesn't have enough to believe in that they can be something else, that their true purpose is, or the coach isn't honest enough with them to tell them the truth. And unfortunately, that's where the mental health starts. And so with our programs, we do a lot of that communication from both sides. And then we also make sure that the kids are being introduced to other skill sets from people that they actually care about. Teenagers now, young adults now, if you're not surrounding them with, Mr. Johnson in the corner is telling them that they can be Justin Bieber, they're not going to believe it unless Justin Bieber comes in the room and goes, yo, you can be me. Here's some cool, you know what I mean? It helps. And because Mr. Johnson has lost credibility, but teenagers don't, because of social media, they don't actually care as much about Mr. Johnson. Not to Mr. Johnson's discredit, his purpose is real. But in my opinion, for youth development in young people, young adults, you have to put a little bit of that chrome on it. And so that's why I surround it with the restaurants that they've ate at, or the Canucks that they watch on the stands on the Saturday, or the Olympian that they watched on TV last year. You know what I mean? Like now they're like, oh, okay, now I'll pay attention. And then the Olympian has the same message that I do and the same message that the chef does that worked his way up through apprenticeship to now be the best restaurant in a 5 Michelin star. It's the same. And at the end of the day, when you teach high performance, you teach practices of how you got to that. And so within that, surrounding these people with a bunch of different mentors from a bunch of different fields with the same mentality, it's amazing how fast that you can develop those kids to create a new mentality that they can do whatever they want if they listen in both directions. And so that's kind of what the program does. And the cool part, and this is what I'll finish on, is that now we've signed a founding partnership with EA, the big video game company.
EA Sports.
We're taking game. That's the one. That's the one. And so they are still the biggest video game company in the world. And now we're turning the Rise and Shine program into a learning video game with like mentor lessons, like masterclass, where, you know, I'll give a lesson on defending, and now you get to put your phone up and you get to do a cone work to do your footwork. And so we're bringing in interactive technology so you can learn from the mentors on a much deeper level than me just telling my story. So my story will get cut into like 6 lessons. One is like how to believe in yourself, how to, you know, how to make your most of your moments. What was it like to play in a World Cup? So that's the cool little celebrity chrome. You can talk about playing against the best players. And so within that, we teach my mindset throughout 5 different parts of my life. The young adults will download those, they'll watch them, and they take quizzes at the end of each one to make sure that I know that they listened. They're not hard, but and then so each question they get right, they get points. And then those points, after the lessons are over, they get unlocked into cool prizes and experience, like EA game packs from FIFA, or a signed jersey from me, or a Zoom call with me. And so we are like taking the celebrity chrome, the blue check marks, we're personifying those people into online lessons. And once you get the points for listening to those lessons, you get to cash them out on cool prizes and experiences. And so within that, we're creating this whole ecosystem of education through young adults. And we'll be launching in the summer. We've already got professional skiers, actors, athletes. We're working on financial literacy lessons through people, CEOs from banks. And at the end of the day, that's the plan. The plan is to take Rise and Shine and turn it into a worldwide mentorship program and an app that really teaches kids through their own thumbs about mentality and people's stories, instead of, you know, because what's happening right now isn't working. That is a fact. Mental health is 60% up since social media was invented. Committed suicides are through the roof. I mean, they're not just thinking about it anymore. They're actually doing it, and they're actually feeling it. And so for me, and I'm sure you guys see this too, through the people you coach, it's tough out there. The anxiety is through the roof. Alex, I'm sure you see this a lot, and there's very few solutions out there. Yeah. What I always talk in all the pitches, and again, EA's given us $500,000 to build this thing over the last year and a half. So it's not like we're pitching these people that don't know what they're talking about. We're pitching the biggest video game company in the world that this is a problem. We need to do something. And they keep going, yes, let's do something about it. And so now this is one of the vehicles to do something about it, instead of just trying to create more awareness. Pretty sure we're all aware now. Now it's about figuring out how to actually do something about it and make sure that our youth are actually being capable, instead of being anxiety-ridden wrecks that think that they're not capable of anything.
Well, that's where we have to target.
Unless there's one person that makes it.
Youth education, that's where it has to go, because, you know, that I think I'm also a big advocate for mental health, especially in men, in that idea of, you know, like that reputation being the alpha male, that sort of thing. And it all starts from education. It really does. And how we can go through the whole of I don't know how much difference there is between Canada, America, UK, but UK, you have physical education all your life, you know, through primary, secondary, you know, high school, all of it. But where's the mental education? Where is it? It's just as important to have mental education as well as physical education.
Because I'd say more.
Exactly, because, you know, I don't want to get into it too much, and I don't know if I'll keep in the podcast, but I lost a friend of mine at school to suicide, and, you know, looking back, it was just frustrating because I saw the signs that nowadays I understand, you know, just through experience and, you know, being a bit more mature and aware. But like at the time, I wasn't picking up on any of the signs because I wasn't educated. You know, it's no one's fault. No one blames anyone. But, you know, if we were more aware and knew the signs at the time, we could have done more. 110%.
Yeah, no, and exactly, and I disagree with that. I do blame the educators. I believe that education has become a pay to play system, and you need to pay to get in the lane that you want. And unfortunately, the education system has created a single lane track that only allows that 1% to win. And I believe that is the problem. That is the institutional problem that I'm going up against. And happily, I am happy to stand in front of any institution and say, why aren't you more well-rounded in your holistic approach to education? Why are you only trying to teach Lionel Messi and LeBron James? Why? Yep. It's not working for the kids. It's not working for development, but yet they don't care because Lionel Messi or Christian Pulisic just made them $73 million.
Yeah.
That's why.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they don't care. They're trying to make money.
Money driven. We've seen it with the Super League. Everything around it is money driven.
Exactly. And so for me, Rise and Shine is about turning that idea on its head and making sure that we're keeping our priorities straight. and continuing the journey that I've been on. You know, Rise and Shine for me has been built by the community. I was built by my community. I was built by my great support from my parents to my friends to people that treated me like I wasn't this like superstar athlete. That's humble. That's a humble approach in that. And so for me to be from both sides of the track now, I've played in the World Cup. I was the best in the world at something. To come from the other side of the track where I was sitting on a park bench in the 12th division, hanging in, you know, with mud as a bench player, as a 23-year-old, thinking I'm nothing. I know how to talk both sides of that coin. I know how to teach it too. And so for me, that's really my purpose. It's my purpose now is to inspire and support and to share my experience with Rise and Shine as much as I can.
One of my major things, and it was kind of touching on like preparing these, like managing expectations and helping educate youth to understand that it's okay if you don't make it to that next level. It's okay if you don't get the scholarship. It's okay if you don't make the provincial team or whatever it is that, you know, these 13, 14, 15-year-olds have decided has to be they're like, you know, the accumulation of all this hard work. And I think it's so important that you're doing that, because I've noticed for myself and speaking with other players who did all that work and made it to the next level and, you know, got to D1 and did all those things. And then all of a sudden the brakes are put on you and you're not the soccer player anymore. And you now have to be a human being when you've never been a human being your whole life. And when I finished university and my playing ended because I had a bilateral ACL stuff. And so, you know, it wasn't my choice. And I was stuck in this position of now I have to be a person. And my whole life I was Alex, the soccer player. And there's not enough effort, time, education, like thought put into preparing people for that moment in their life when they have to all of a sudden change how they identify who they are. And it was hard for me, and it's hard for so many people. And I think that, you know, there's a whole generation of people where we can't go back in time and rewire, you know, how we look at the world. But I think it's so important that you're setting the groundwork now. And originally I had said, you know, what did you do? You know, what did you do to transition out of being the soccer player? And you kind of answered it with this Rise and Shine organization and all the work that you're kind of doing. But I mean, I'm sure you had those moments of what's next, even though the way you speak is so assured and you have all these different mentalities and you've done TED Talks and you are a very optimistic, motivated, competitive person. But I mean, I don't want to answer for you, but I'm sure you had moments of like, what's next? Like, holy crap, like what's next, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. You wouldn't be human if you didn't have doubts, put it that way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, again, I talked a lot about the humble approach. And again, there's nothing wrong with a humble approach and being confident at the same time. And I believe that confidence is earned by experience, and experience is earned by doing, going through things, losing, winning, getting out of your comfort zone to try new skills, ask the dude on a date, ask the girl on a date, do something you haven't done, make the post that you've been scared to do, create the content you never thought you could create, make the movie that you always wanted to make but never knew about film. Do it, because I guarantee you're going to be better for it, because what it will do is it will either relinquish the skill that you thought you were, i.e. I'm a basketball player, I've been told I can play basketball my whole life, and all of a sudden I'm not a basketball player. What should I do? Identity crisis. Now imagine if you were just saying, hey, I know you love basketball, keep training, keep doing an awesome job. What else do you like to do? Let's go to this thing. Oh, you like movies? Cool. Should we go to one? Let's go do that. Start to seed plant in other directions to diversify your asset is what I like to say. We talk about it in business all the time in my startups and things. It's like diversification in human asset as much as you should do with your investment money. Yeah. If you're not diversifying in your human assets, you're giving yourself a disservice. Just like you want to make money for yourself, it's the same concept of how you make money. You do it by, you can either bet on the one horse and hope that you hit the home run. Great. Yep. Okay. There's ways to make money in that way for sure. But when you diversify your assets, you give yourself a better chance to succeed. And I talk about that in human development too. Like if you only have one asset, you're kind of walking a tight rope here. So find other assets. If you don't know them, find them. Try other things. All of us have things deep inside us that we thought we might try. Or I did this art lesson and it actually worked well because I'd never done art, but everyone was commenting how good it was. That's a seed right there that you should be like, that was kind of fun actually. Maybe I should just do that. First, you got to get over the humility approach and go, okay, I'm going to come in going, I know I'm not an awesome artist, but this is fun for me. And you never know where that leads. And I'll finish with this kind of idea of today of I was actually on a call because one of the girls that we're bringing to the platform is a girl named Kat Jamie, and she's a filmmaker that made the Big Country Reeves Finding Big Country about the Vancouver Grizzlies player, a very famous Netflix documentary. It's called Finding Big Country. And she kind of came, she's 20, I think she's 28. And so she was a young filmmaker and found this world fame by making this basketball documentary. And she grew up as a basketball player, and she, to this your point, Alex, suffered from the same demise. And she was a high school basketball player that was awesome. She got to college, didn't make the team and got cut, considered herself this incredible failure, had mental health issues to try to get back. The coach and one of the captains on the team just allowed her to train and just to come back and love the game a little bit more and say, listen, I don't want you to kill the game and think that that wasn't part of it. Come train with us and fall in love with the game a little bit and understand that there's more to life than just basketball. And she was built from the film industry. Her family in the Philippines is famous filmmakers. And so she always grew up and always liked making film and always liked to do it, but never thought of it because she always wanted to be a basketball player. And what happened was, in the passion finding journey of the failures and the things that she thought weren't awesome, is that once she started to play basketball just to love the sport, she realized she should start making movies about the sport she loves. And so she turned that passion finding of basketball, that failure, into basketball. I'm not a basketball player, but now she uses basketball and her love of the game to make these incredible films that the worlds want to watch. And so within that, it's kind of like this graduation into a new skill set based on the skill set you already have and all the incredible knowledge and experience that you've been so fortunate to have in high performance sport. So if you've gone into college, think about all the great things from a mentality building perspective that you've had. You've won, you've lost, you've had team talks, you've been a student manager, you manage your time to be a student athlete. Think about all those skills now you can put into a new profession if you don't take it as personally as you should. That I just lost my life because all I've known is basketball. There's so many silver linings in there. There's so many positivity things from a mindset or experience perspective that you really need to decipher what those experiences were with a fine-tooth comb to go, what is my new experience? How can I use this as a positive? Or how can I dissect this shitty experience right now in my head into going, what can I use from these skills to do something? If I want to go work for a marketing company like Facebook and I'm a basketball player, take your basketball skills and start making basketball content and do the other things to go and get the job, maybe to be something else inside you feel like you could do. Because all of us have something else inside us. And if somebody says, oh, well, I don't care, all I ever think about is soccer, I said, well, then you're not thinking hard enough.
Yeah.
You're not. Yeah. You're not giving yourself the amount of human ability that you required. I believe that we should do what we're capable of, not by what other people tell us or what some lane that was created for us tells us. And I think that diversifying your assets as a person, understanding that some of these failures are real, but we should make sure we have seeds and plants in other directions that we can water those too. And I guarantee you the passion finding will come because you weren't meant to play basketball in the end, or you weren't meant to be that thing. Because if you're living life to your truth, your passions will reveal themselves. And I think when you live to your truth, that's kind of what the answer to the question is passion finding is a route that's life journey based. It's not a single thing. It's not a single track. It's a life. It's a lifetime. And you can pivot. You can use your incredible experience to do better things in another direction and be okay with it. You have to be, because that's the only way that you're going to move forward and progress in life. And I think that's the real key to your question.
Yeah, and it's amazing what you're doing, because you could just say, oh, look, I have a fascinating story, let me just do a road show and I'll charge, for each appearance. But you're doing something completely different. You're using your experience to educate others, inspire others, and I think, and not for profit, you're not doing it to make money, you're doing it for the people who are joining you on the journey, and I think that's amazing. And Jay, we've kept you a lot longer than planned. But the master of mentality, Jay Demerit, thank you so much for joining us on what Friday afternoon for you now, I guess. Early afternoon in Vancouver. We've got Alex over on the east side, and obviously me in the UK. But yeah, Jay, thank you so much for taking time to speak to us today, and just kind of accepting us as we kind of reached out on a limb, hoping you'd get back to us, which you did very quickly, and now we've got this amazing episode, and you've had another platform to tell your story, which I think is great.
100%. And again, thank you guys for the opportunity.